Welcome to the Commercial Real Estate Report. I'm your host, Chris Berg, Head of Business Development and Land Acquisition in the great state of California. Here for Abernathey Holdings, we are a self-storage development company. And excited today, we got a very special guest, incredible background, been in commercial real estate now for 12 years. He's the CEO of his commercial real estate investment firm in St. Louis, $50 million in assets. He's also sold a portfolio of mobile home parks, and he's now head of land acquisition in the great state of Arizona for Abernathey Holdings. Dan Gibson. Dan, welcome to the show, man. It's great to have you.
Hey, Chris, great to be here. Appreciate you having me on.
So some very impressive numbers there. You already have done a great background in real estate. Let's just talk about sort of the start of when you're like, I think I'm going to do this real estate thing and build into a $50 million portfolio.
Man, it goes fast and you almost can't control it at a certain stage. It's funny. I went to college, getting a finance degree and realized pretty quickly that I was not going to be cut out for corporate America. So, like I think a lot of people in the real estate world, you read Rich Dad, Poor Dad once, and you're like, oh, wow, that's interesting. And I just started with the first residential property and then brought my brother in with me. He's 2 years younger, when he graduated. And then, I think we started out as a goal as a family to buy like 25 rental properties. And that was going to be our nest egg, for our retirement and whatnot. And then, less than 10 years later, we had at our peak over 1,000 units, including some mobile home parks. So that's the short version.
How do you go from, let's maybe do 25 to 1,000 like that?
Well, the first couple take time, and you're nervous and you're scared and you're not cash flowing those first couple. And I was my own maintenance guy for a while. My brother and I did the property management for the first 5 or 6 years ourselves just to learn the business. And then you realize pretty quickly that economies of scale matter, and the paperwork's all the same, whether you're buying a single family house or you're buying a 200 lot mobile home park. And we just decided to kind of go for it. And luckily, we had some good JV partners along the way to help with some funding. And we tried to be the best property managers out there, and then we built a team around it. And that was like a 10-year process, but it's ultimately led us now to self-storage development.
We'll get to that in a minute. I want to hear kind of the transition, because you said, hey, we're doing these single families. Again, we're thinking maybe 25. Our JV partner, Gary Thoroldson, billionaire hotel developer, and he's always talking about sticking to your knitting. So what opened your eyes, or how did the transition come about from single family to mobile home parks?
Honestly, by accident. There wasn't any special, I didn't read something on mobile home parks and was like, oh, that's what we should do. I've always been an acquisitions guy, and the initial numbers, that always kind of was my bread and butter and excited me. So I think at the time we probably had 10 or 11, doors, and I was looking at a duplex, I believe, of a lady who owned it, and we couldn't come to an agreement on it. And she said, hey, why don't you come check out my trailer park? And I, did what everybody does the first time you hear that. And you're just kind of like, I don't know if I want to get into that business. And, she kind of drugged me along with her and said, no, if you like cash flow, you need to look this out. She was like, I'll seller finance it for you. We'll work it out. Like, I don't know if she saw a little bit of me and herself at a young age, because she was always in a bunch of businesses, and she was kind of a mentor to me, and she was awesome. And yeah, that's how we bought the first park with seller financing from her. Wow. And then pretty quickly after that, 6-7 months later, my brother and I were discussing, the growth of our company, and we were like, this is a niche that nobody's in. Granted, this was, almost 10 years ago now. And so we just started, just all, cold calling and boots on ground, referrals, and talking to brokers, and we built a mobile home.
what a blessing. This woman's like, no, these are great cash
Oh,
flow. It's doing great for me, but here, let me sell it to you, right? Like,
yeah, yeah. I think they wanted to retire. They had a good career, and I think they still probably own a decent amount of real estate. But yeah, that was one of her more management heavy sites. So they wanted to kind of wind down, and I guess she trusted me, and it was perfect. Win-win situation.
so I know you had an exit as well with some of the mobile home parks. So talk about that story where I remember you were like, wait a second, these guys are getting how much for these mobile home parks?
Yeah, and it's kind of a theme throughout, I would say, my real estate career is if you're always in acquisitions mode, you kind of you always have a feel of what's going on in the market. So we were at about our peak, 1,000 doors, 1,000 units, however you want to call it. And my brother and I were running everything, and we had a team with us, but we were busting at the seams. We were just putting out fires every week, it seemed like. And I thought there had to be a better way. So my better way was, well, let's just go double in size, and then we can hire some mid-level regional managers and get out of the day to day. And so we found a portfolio of parks that was similar to ours in the Midwest. I think it was in Ohio, and we made an offer on it at a very aggressive price, and we lost out on that deal, and we weren't even close. Like, we were millions of dollars off. And so I was, looking back at it, I was like, okay, well, who's buying this at that price? Maybe the market's changed. Obviously interest rates were nothing back. This was in 2021, early 2021. And by trying to buy that portfolio, then that led us to understanding where the market is. And once we saw what was being paid for mobile home parks, we packaged a group of ours together and sold them off a couple months later, because we were like, well, if buy and sell at the right times, that's the name of the game.
So you have a nice exit, and then now you're the head of land acquisition in Arizona for Abernathey Holdings doing self-storage. So talk about how that
Yeah.
happened about.
So we bought a couple of self-storage facilities in the St. Louis metro, where I'm from. And my brother's kind of running those, and we were always interested in kind of diversifying our real estate holdings anyway. So we had a little bit of experience in self-storage. And then the timing was just incredible. I joined a mastermind group uh, within, I think, the same month that Andrew Abernathey joined the group, and we were two of the younger guys in the group, so we hit it off pretty well. And he was explaining, what Abernathey Holdings has going on out here, and in just Arizona at the time. And I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting. And we were in the process of negotiating our liquidation, so we worked out a deal to partner together on some stuff. And then I think it started out as just, I was like, oh, well, if you ever need help, I'll help you with some land here and there. Just, I was like, I'm not trying to create a job for myself. And then so helped that, help find land from afar in Arizona. And then as of about 4 months ago, I moved the entire family out here. So that's how well it's going.
And I think it was important to mention that you're also a shareholder in Abernathey Holdings. So you put your money
Yes.
where your
Yes.
mouth is. You've
Yes.
done that. So what was it about the vision of Abernathey Holdings that has you go, you know what? I'm going to invest in this, and I'm also going to now be head of land acquisition in AZ.
Yeah, I mean, I think the big thing is, you're investing in the person, right? So, when I met Andrew and Matt Halverson, we hit it off really well, but ultimately I trusted them. They were building something so much bigger than I ever dreamed of having, in St. Louis. And they really kind of sold me on this development plan. And I mean, I knew obviously real estate, is my thing. So I knew I wanted to continue in some sort of real estate. So I didn't necessarily expect to move across the country, um, but I really did. You trust the people, you're putting your money with, and I think what better way? Like, if no one's going to take care of no one's going to take care of your money, like the way you are. So when I had the opportunity to, to be a partner, be a shareholder, to be on the board, I took that and ran with it because, I know there's nothing our team can't figure out. And to me, that's the most exciting thing about what we have going for us is, we've got some interesting market conditions, and that's going to continue, highs and lows, I'm sure, over the rest of our careers. But, there's truly nothing that we can't figure out.
So you've been now in Arizona, you said, for roughly about 4 months or so. A lot of activity, right? I mean, you're finding a lot of dirt, putting out some LOIs, getting things under contract, starting to break ground. Talk to us about what's happening in Arizona right now for Abernathey Holdings.
Yeah, we are on the precipice of a lot going on. We've got 3 different sites, probably by the end of the year, will be all under construction. And then we've got a 4th site that Q1 2024 will be breaking ground. And then we've got another 6 or 7 under contract, around the valley here, that we're super excited about. And then obviously, what you have going on in California is super exciting as well. We've got at least a couple sites and a couple more on the way there. So, big things are happening, and we got to keep that pipeline full, right? That's our job right now, because entitlements can get interesting, and debt markets can get interesting. But I think as long as you and I have a full pipeline with deals that we like, then ultimately we'll be able to hit our goals.
You're back in that acquisitions mode. What has been, since you've made the transition and now you're doing this, what's been maybe the most surprising piece of being in Arizona full time and just focused on land acquisition?
Well, I would say for starters, the opportunity out here is incredible. Coming from a pretty small Midwestern city, it's pretty stagnant, and the slightest new development is a big deal. And you come out to an area like Phoenix where it's just absolutely growing every direction. That's been, honestly, it's kind of reinvigorated me a little bit. Just seeing all the opportunity, all the development going on, and honestly being able to to work with those bigger developers is kind of one thing I never thought about until I got out here. Is we self-storage can be tricky sometimes in entitlements, as we know, but being good partners and being able to take down 2, 3, 4 acres of a bigger development, if a retail guy or a multifamily guy has some extra land, developing those relationships, ultimately, I think that's kind of where my secret sauce is, with acquisitions, is getting on the same wavelength as these sellers and developers. And if that means I have to take them out to golf once a week, somebody's got to do it, I guess. I'll be the one. I'll draw the short straw. But doing those kinds of relationships has been a lot of fun, and honestly something I didn't really expect. And honestly, you don't know what you don't know. So I was used to just kind of very slow moving, stagnant growth in the Midwest, and then you come out to the West Coast, and it's been so much fun. It's been exciting.
So you've kind of touched on it, maybe a little bit more specific. You're in land acquisition. You're looking for people to bring you deals. So what, maybe brokers out there, developers that are going to see this, what are you looking for in a good site there in the Phoenix area?
Yeah, so I think the big things are, we're looking for that 2 to 4 acre range. We want to be on a highly visible street. Typically 15,000 vehicles per day or more is ideal. We're looking for a 3-mile population of 70,000 plus. Out in Arizona, income, we like to see, over 90,000, over 100,000 in income in that 3-mile radius as well. So obviously the big economic driver right now is the rental rates on the storage. So those have kind of dropped recently, but we still have 5 or 6 solid areas in the Phoenix metro where rates are holding strong, and we would do deals very quickly. And so that's definitely, I've been blasting that out to a few of our broker relationships.
Good. It's one of the frustrations I've been going through too. It's like, it's rare that you've got capital to deploy, but there's nowhere to really deploy it now. So if anybody out there
Yeah.
watching's got a piece of dirt in Arizona or California for that matter, you can see my email here scrolling along the bottom. If you're in Arizona, I'll be happy to forward that along to Dan and have him get in
Yes.
contact with you. So I think with what you just mentioned, with rates falling a little bit, you've seen construction lower as well, which, as Andy and I talked about last week, I think it puts us in a prime position 3, 4, 5 years down the road to really have a nice portfolio in place. So just love to get your take on what you see right now with the credit crunch from some of the banks, and what do you think that means for us long term?
Yeah, and I mean we're seeing it too in our commercial portfolio, throughout the Midwest. I mean, it's tougher to get loans. I for the first time in a long time have had to be super dialed in on when I have different, loans ballooning and stuff because, if a loan goes from a 3.5% rate to a 7% rate, well, that's that's going to cut into some cash flow. So, for the first time really in my career, having to really pay attention to that. So we're definitely no different. I just think we have the ability with our, JV relationship with Gary Theraldson, um, with Chris, you and I, with the acquisitions and the pipeline being full. I mean, I think we have the ability to, if our criteria is still met, we have no reason why we won't be able to move quickly, and close. We, you know just like anybody else, I'm sure the banks will change some terms on us, for the next deal. But we also have a lot of good banking relationships, so it's a catch 22 for sure. We are in a good position. Maybe our deal, our numbers may not be in the perfect spot from what we're used to or from most recent loans, but it's a give and take, and I still think we're in a great spot. The demand is still there, and that's the important thing. So the demand's still there. There may be a little bit less supply being built over the next year or two, but if there is supply being built, there's a good chance we're going to be, a good chunk of that.
Yes, and not only that, I put out a great article today on social media in the Wall Street Journal about how a lot of home builders now making the homes smaller, getting rid of certain living spaces,
Sure.
which only is going to increase the demand for our product. So, give you the last word. Anything else you want to add or share? I haven't asked you.
Um, no, I just couldn't be more excited for where we're at. The more the more I'm learning from you about California, the more excited I am about California. I cannot believe I'm saying that, being a Midwestern boy, like typical flyover country, right? But yeah, the growth I'm seeing in California and the numbers there, I'm super excited about, and I think you know yeah, it may be more difficult, may cost a little bit more, but I think you know we can we can make it work, and if anyone's going to do it, I think we can. So no, I'm just super appreciative to be part of the team, and I think we got a great thing going.
I do too, man. And thank you for what you just said, because that's exactly why, Gary Theraldson, that's why we need to be in California, guys. It's a high
Yeah.
threshold, high barrier to entry. We've got the patience, we've got the capital. And so, again, if you're out there and you've got some dirt that you think might fit for our needs, you can email myself. If it's in Arizona, I'll be happy to pass it along to Dan, though. Or if it's in California, we are looking and ready, willing and able to deploy some capital in the right site. So, Dan, man, I mean, first and foremost, congratulations on all your success. It's just been great to learn more about you and your story. And thanks for giving us some time today.
Anytime.